Hello everyone, and welcome to this session, Stars for All, the inclusion experience of the Italian Amateur Astronomers community. I'm Cesare Pagano, and I'm the General Secretary for the Unione Astronomi Italiani, the National Amateur Astronomers Association in Italy. Let's start from the context. We talk about amateur astronomers, so just to share a few facts about the amateur astronomers in Italy. Based on a survey from 8 years ago, there is an estimated of 56,000 people passionate about astronomy, 14,000 of which are members of an association. We have 270 associations with about 90 observatories spread across the nation. The main activities of the Amateur Astronomy Associations are astronomy dissemination, observation and research, as well as education support. So if we want to look at the key aspects of the amateur astronomers community in Italy, it's about 1% of the Italian population. There is a growing interest in the public about this topic. There is a nationwide presence of many local associations with some loose integration at national level. And it's based mainly on voluntary activities. So that means we do a lot with small budgets. Now, last bit of context, Unione Astronomi Italiani, the National Association of Amateur Astronomers. It's a non-profit association founded in 1967 with about 61 local delegations, about 850 members, some of which, about 100, are actually associations. So that means individuals are more than that. Our activities are education support, research, astronomy dissemination, as well as the protection of the dark sky natural environment, fighting light pollution. So that's the context. In the next slide, I'm going to summarize the whole history, so you have a glance view of what happened. In year 2009, for the International Year of Astronomy, a local association started to focus on how to include the blind people on the outreach activities. And after some experiments, some building tools and so on, they delivered the first class for blind and deaf-blind people in 2010. And they kept building experience in the next years until in 2015 they shared their experience at the national meeting of the Unione Astronomi Italiani. It was a pretty successful session, it raised a lot of interest. So the association, the UAI, decided to start a project to spread this good practice at national level. This is how the Stelle per Tutti project was born, with 13 associations involved, and pretty successful activities. We will see some details in the next slides. The good thing is that once a project was over, the group kept growing and the activities continued. So in 2018, we reached about 20 associations. And in 2019, we actually had the first national conference, gathering about 50 people from various associations and also from the professional astronomy community. And we reached out to the IAU Inclusion Work Group to be in touch with the international community. Of course, we had to cancel the 2020 national conference, but we started some online inclusion experiments, as we'll see in the next slides. So, a few words about the project. The goal was to activate the network of amateur astronomers associations around the inclusive outreach practices, starting from the existing experience. So, share and learn and spread. It was co-funded by the Ministry of Labor and Social Policy, and it ran between 2016 and 2017. Let's see some of the activities that we performed for the project. We had residential classes for blind and low vision people, 2 courses, one for North and one for South of Italy, in collaboration with the UICI, which is the National BLB Association, with 23 participants. The key of this class was the usage of 3D and 4D models developed in-house. Just to have a glance of these models, you can see some pictures on this slide. By 4D, we mean that they are 3-dimensional models that are able also to reproduce the movement, the evolution of a phenomena in time. For instance, the first model on the left shows the Earth and the sun rays arriving the Earth with the inclination of its axis, and so how the seasons are generated by the different inclination of the Earth compared to the sun rays. The second model is meant to show the shadow that creates the eclipse. There is a model to show the night sky, and another one to show the horizon and how it varies depending on latitude, and how this affects the sunrise and sunset depending also on the season. Then there is a more complex electromechanical model that shows the movements of Earth and the seasons in an automatic way. There is a dedicated CAP session to show some of these tools if you want to follow, and it's mentioned on the slide. The second activity was training for operators to perform star parties with people on wheelchair, people with motor impairment. So we gave instructions on how to modify the telescope, how to organize and how to run an observation session for people in wheelchair, including the detailed design of telescope modifications. If you are interested in more details, there is a dedicated poster called Star Parties on Wheelchair, Tools and Methodologies. And finally, we arranged public events. The Solidarity Star Party, so Star Party for people with motor impairment, and or outreach activities in hospital, nursing home, or similar context. And finally, the National Day, when all the observatories were invited to arrange events, inclusive events, open the door to everyone. And we had 15 events arranged across the country. What is the heritage of this project? There is an active national community of 20 associations. There is a website where all the group knowledge is shared and freely available to all. We have solid links with the national associations of people with disability, which is key to get their endorsement, their consultancy, their directions, their advice. We have active members of the IAU Inclusion Work Group, and we have this continuous learning, experimenting, and sharing. So it's a live group. And finally, I want to touch on the online experience. We had 3 activities with increased complexity that we arranged during 2020, starting in March, and the last one was in November. What you see on the screen is actually the last experience that we ran in November. It was about Mars and Dante. We reproduced the Dante versus in Mars atmosphere thanks to a simulation software done by a university. But the key part is that we spent a lot of time to make it available to both people with visual and hearing impairment, with a special layout of the screen, with a special design of sign language to render the difference in the various atmospheres. Some key elements of the screen layout are the large window size for the sign interpreter with the dark background, the caption section at the bottom, and the high contrast slides. Special care has been used to have extensive descriptions of what is on the screen so that people with visual impairments can still follow the presentation. There is a dedicated oral session titled Organizing Live Broadcast Accessible to Deaf, Blind, and Visually Impaired People that goes in much more details about both the technological and methodological aspects. So, closing this session, I believe the key ingredients for this successful experience are the passion for astronomy and its dissemination that is common to amateur astronomers, a bottom-up experimental approach. Let's do things and then let's improve. Openness, anyone can contribute and any contribution is public, and the community, helping each other. You can see the link to the website if you want to look at the resources available there in Italian, and there is also the email address if you want to contact us. With that, this session is over. Thank you all and good rest of the conference.